I resolved to enter a flash marriage, thereby ending my 7-year relationship with my boyfriend, prompted by his female childhood friend's curiosity about the pained expression caused by eating wasabi, leading him to covertly add a substantial amount of wasabi to my cake. Upon noticing something amiss, I hurriedly consumed milk, only to discover it too was laced with wasabi, resulting in my embarrassing display, while he and his childhood friend laughed uncontrollably, exclaiming, "Haha, you're about to cry, I must capture this moment with a photo." I had not returned to the apartment for 3 days, and following the wasabi incident, I acquiesced to my mother's suggestion of an arranged marriage, proposing, "Mom, let's schedule the wedding for next month, coinciding with my birthday, to combine the events for convenience." My mother beamed with delight, responding, "That's the right decision, rest assured, the man I've chosen for you surpasses that irresponsible Lucien by a vast margin. Consider the past 7 years as a tuition fee and adopt a positive outlook." Indeed, I had loved Lucien for 7 years and cohabited with him for the same duration, yet he never formally acknowledged our relationship, even evading his parents' request to bring a girlfriend home for the new year by claiming he was not in a relationship. That evening, I engaged a moving company to retrieve my belongings from the apartment, and as I gazed at the familiar surroundings, I was suddenly struck with regret for the 7 years I had invested in an unworthy individual. "What are you doing? Who permitted you to move things?" Lucien bellowed at the staff upon his return, rushing toward me as he noticed me packing. "Yo-yo, what are you doing? You know I dislike strangers in the house," he said, to which I calmly replied, "I am returning to get married." Lucien was visibly shocked, exclaiming, "What marriage? Yo-yo, stop fooling around, the timing isn't right," but I knew he intended to persuade me to wait further, only for his phone to ring at that moment. A woman's feeble sobs emanated from the phone. "Woo-woo, brother Lucien, my car was rear-ended, what should I do?" A voice I recognized as belonging to Lucien's childhood friend, Anne. Lucien's wrists trembled with anxiety, his breathing subdued as he asked, "Are you hurt? Send me your location, I'll head there immediately." Before finishing his sentence, he dashed out the door, entirely forgetting my mention of marriage, and as I observed his hasty departure, my heart remained tranquil, concluding that leaving this way was preferable, sparing me the need for explanations. After loading my belongings into the vehicle, I realized I had no destination for them, recalling how my family had opposed my relationship with Lucien, leading me to move to his city alone and spend 7 years with him. At that juncture, my cousin invited me to meet at a cafe, expressing regret upon learning of my breakup. "Yo-yo, you two were in love for 7 years, isn't it a shame to end it like this? Marrying someone you don't love will lead to lifelong regret." I gave an indifferent smile, "Hee, it's not a pity," and seeing my despondent demeanor, my cousin assumed I had endured significant grievance, offering to intervene on my behalf. "Tell me, has that scoundrel Lucien bullied you?" "I'll gather people to deal with him now," she insisted, but I declined her kind offer, saying, "No need, I'm fine now." My cousin gently clasped my hand, stating, "A forced melon is not sweet. Our yo-yo is so exceptional that Lucien will surely regret this in the future." Whether Lucien would regret his actions remained uncertain to me, but reflecting on my unplaced luggage, I regretted not discarding it in the trash. After finishing my coffee, I planned to stay at my cousin's place for a few days, but upon stepping outside, I saw Lucien approaching, carrying and on his back while humming a tune. Lucien noticed me and was momentarily taken aback, slowly lowering Anne, who clutched her abdomen feebly, saying, "Sister Yo-yo, don't misunderstand, my stomach was in severe pain just now, so I asked brother Lucien to carry me." I responded faintly, as their actions were no longer my concern, yet Lucien seemed displeased with my demeanor. "Yo-yo, if you're upset, you can express it, but don't show contempt by ignoring me. I've carried on like this since childhood," he said, and though I had no interest in their story, I refrained from interrupting as he insisted on explaining. However, my cousin could not tolerate it, remarking, "Lucien, behaving so intimately with another woman in public, uninformed onlookers might mistake you for a couple." Lucien appeared slightly embarrassed by my cousin's probing, responding, "Cousin, and I are not what you think, I've always regarded her as a sister." I promptly tugged at my cousin's sleeve, signaling her to drop the matter, as I no longer cared how Lucien managed his relationship with Anne. And, assuming I misunderstood, reiterated, Sister Yo-Yo, Brother Lucien and I are truly innocent. If anything were to happen between us, he would have been my boyfriend long ago. Hee. Indeed, Lucien had frequently used this excuse in the past, claiming that if his relationship with and were impure, I would have been out of the picture long ago. I understand, then I'll leave first, I said, having nothing further to say to Lucien at that moment, leaving him free to care for whomever he chose. Back at my cousin's house, before I could settle down, Lucien called me, complaining, Yo-Yo, did you deliberately hide all the ladies' toiletries and facial cleansers? What isn't supposed to use? After all this time together, I never thought you'd be so petty, yet his accusatory tone left me emotionally unmoved. I replied, realizing only then that I had emptied the room entirely, and his lack of concern confirmed my dispensable status in his heart. Noticing silence on the other end, I hung up, only for Lucien to call again the next second, his tone noticeably softer this time. Yo-Yo, I need to tell you something, and will move in with us, as we conveniently have an empty room, and the renovations next to her rental are too noisy for her to sleep well. Arrange it as you see fit. If there's nothing else, I'll hang up, I said, waiting 3 seconds for a response that didn't come, then ending the call. Observing a red goldfish swimming leisurely in the tank, I suddenly felt that letting go of someone could bring considerable freedom. My cousin, concerned I might dwell on it, prepared a bowl of fruit slices for me, and just as I was about to eat, Lucien sent me a video call request. My cousin, visibly displeased, remarked, What a scumbag, clearly involved with someone else yet still entangling you. Answer it, clarify things once and for all, and warn him not to bother you again. Appearing more indignant than I was, I smiled nonchalantly and accepted the call. Lucien aimed the camera at the empty house, berating me, Yo-Yo, what's your intention, clearing out the entire place? Do you hate Anne that much? She's just starting out and needs support, and you've dealt her a harsh blow. Have you considered her feelings? I put my phone down reluctantly. Until now, Lucien still thinks that I am narrow-minded and petty for moving out. Lucien, I have vacated the room for you, what else do you want? On the other end, Lucien was evidently taken aback, and Anne's languid, weary voice chimed in, Brother Lucien, I'm so sleepy, causing his breathing to grow tense. It's good you're not returning, it frees up a space for Anne, who hasn't rested well lately and can now finally sleep soundly, he said before abruptly hanging up. Although I had convinced myself I had moved on, witnessing Lucien's urgency to accommodate and still caused a subtle ache in my heart. That night, unable to sleep and tossing restlessly, I resorted to my phone for distraction, when suddenly someone tagged me on Facebook. It was Anne. She had posted a 9-grid collage on Facebook of Lucien cooking for her, including a photo of them nestled together, appearing quite well matched. Lucien's close friends commented enthusiastically, so Lucien isn't incapable of cooking, he just cooks for and alone, and congratulations, after all the twists and turns, you're together. In the lengthy comment section, Lucien replied to one, I will protect and for a lifetime, a statement that garnered 99 likes. Such overt favoritism was something I had never experienced from him. I recalled Lucien's last birthday when friends visited our home, and one called me sister-in-law, only to be promptly corrected that we were not a couple, highlighting the stark difference between love and its absence. I casually liked the post and commented, congratulations to you, wishing you happiness, after which I deleted them all, resolving that Lucien and I would henceforth be strangers. Yet minutes later, my phone rang again. It was Lucien, so late at night, shouldn't he be by Anne's side, telling her stories to lull her to sleep? How did he find time to contact me? Intending to hang up, I accidentally answered instead, and immediately Lucien's irate voice burst through, Yo-Yo, who told you to comment on Anne's Facebook, causing her to be mistaken for a mistress? Now she's crying and distraught. Do you realize how much harm your recklessness has caused her? Listening to Lucien's rapid-fire tirade, I found it laughable, retorting, Lucien, and deliberately tagged me to see it. Wasn't she seeking blessings? Why can others offer them, but I cannot? You. Lucien paused briefly. She's young and playful, doesn't know better. Are you also so immature? You'd better call her now and apologize. And was merely 2 years my junior, yet Lucien shielded her with excuses of youth and ignorance, a level of affection and bias I had never received, and though it stung, I was grateful to finally discern my true standing in his heart. Lucien, let's part ways, I said, feeling a profound relief. When loving someone, he occupied my every thought and action, but letting go freed me from constant anxiety. But Lucien grew agitated. Yo-yo, stop threatening me with a breakup. This time, I'll overlook it, but next time, please don't harm, and she's innocent. He hung up hastily, missing my final words. We're done, there won't be a next time, and so be it. As we never had a formal beginning, there was little to regret in this abrupt end. The next morning, I purchased a ticket home, for a wounded child naturally yearns for home, as did I, and shortly after booking, I received a call from the delivery courier. It turned out the couple's portrait I had taken with Lucien last month was framed and ready for pickup, a large piece nearly 2 square meters, intended to hang in the living room as a memento of our 7 years together. However, it now held no significance, so I asked the courier to discard it in the trash, but he refused, insisting I sign for it. Arriving downstairs in the neighborhood, I signed for the delivery but faced a dilemma. The massive painting was cumbersome and some distance from the trash bin, leaving me no choice but to smash the frame with a stone and dispose of the glass fragments piece by piece. Amid the passing crowd, several neighbors recognized me and shook their heads regretfully. After 10 minutes of clearing the glass, I forcefully extracted the photo and tore it in half, deciding that Lucien and I should never share a picture in this lifetime. Yo-yo, what are you doing? Lucien's voice suddenly sounded behind me, startling me so much that I flinched and swung my hand, accidentally cutting the back of it on the sharp frame, causing blood to flow freely, which I instinctively hid behind my back, stepping back and saying, "Nothing, just throwing out some trash." Lucien stepped forward, saw the shredded photo on the ground, and was momentarily at a loss, asking, "Yo-yo, this photo, who told you to throw it away?" I countered, "If not discarded, where should it go?" "Hung in the living room would and permit that," prompting a guilty look from Lucien, as and now resided there, and all traces of me had been removed, making it implausible for the picture to remain displayed. "Yo-yo, I'm sorry, I admit I've neglected you lately, but you shouldn't have torn our photo. Since you did, let's take another next week as compensation," he said, his words dripping with condescension, though I no longer required such gestures. I picked up the torn photos and stood up to throw them into the trash. I didn't want them anymore, along with the 7 years of relationship. Feeling ignored, Lucien abruptly grabbed me, saying, "Yo-yo, are you set on resisting me with silence? Caring for and is exhausting enough. Can't you stop causing trouble and spare me some worry?" I shook off his hand and calmly stated, "I've never caused trouble from start to finish. Have you seen me actively confront you for answers? Is throwing out trash somehow wrong?" Rendering Lucien speechless, his mouth opening but unable to articulate a response. "Brother Lucien." And saccharine voice called from a distance, prompting Lucien to whirl around, his expression shifting drastically upon seeing her approach, urging, "Yo-yo, leave quickly. Don't stay here, I don't want to see you and overthink." I stood frozen, staring blankly at the man I had loved for 7 years, realizing Lucien was willing to expel me solely to safeguard Anne's feelings. What profound affection that must signify. What then were my 7 years with him worth? He was the one unfaithful to our relationship. Why should I be the one perpetually apologizing and hiding as if I were at fault? Lucien, is this how you bully people? What wrong have I committed that I don't even have the right to be on this street? I challenged, leaving him speechless as and approached. Upon seeing me, and deliberately coughed lightly, prompting Lucien to swiftly remove his coat and drape it over her. "Sister Yo-yo, this photo on the ground?" And asked, the shattered picture of Lucien and me starkly noticeable on the pavement. And hurriedly squatted to pick it up, but I pulled her back, warning, "Careful," as glass shards remained on the ground, posing a risk of injury, only for her to push me down the next moment, falling atop me. "Ah!" and shrieked as a glass shard nicked her fingertip, drawing a trace of blood, and Lucien, panic-stricken, swiftly pulled her into his arms. "And, are you okay? Does it hurt?" he asked, then turned to me. "Yo-yo, I didn't expect you to be so malicious, falling yourself and dragging Anne down with you." Anne meekly shook her head. "Brother Lucien, I'm not in pain, but Sister Yo-yo's hand is injured. Help her up quickly." Initially, only the back of my hand was hurt, but in the instant I was knocked down, and abruptly seized a glass fragment and slashed it across my palm. Seeing blood streaming from my hand, Lucien grew anxious and began to crouch, only to freeze mid-motion, declaring, "She brought this on herself, no need to bother, come, I'll get you a bandage," and I offered no explanation, as my presence there was evidently a mistake. Lucien then hoisted Anne into his arms and departed, leaving me alone by the trash bin, and only after a long pause did I slowly rise to tend to my wounds. Returning to my cousin's home, I packed my luggage simply and hastened to the airport, as this city no longer held anything worth lingering for. My parents met me at the airport, their eyes reddening at the sight of my injured hand, saying, "After 7 years, you finally returned. We wept ourselves blind back then, but you wouldn't heed us sigh. It's good you're back." This hand, was it Lucien who hurt it? "I'll have your cousin deal with him now," my mother intuited accurately, but to spare them worry, I lied that I had fallen, though their decades of business acumen saw through my deception, which they chose not to expose. Upon entering, I noticed the hall stacked with wedding candy boxes, and my mother explained that the Shin family had visited thrice, eager for my return, suggesting, "Should we invite James for dinner tonight to meet and bond?" To which I replied lightly, "No need, I trust your judgment, Mom." After dinner, I suddenly wished to travel, as marriage would curtail such freedom, but my mother objected, reasoning that I needed to promptly take wedding photos. I calculated the timing and decided to complete the wedding photos tomorrow, then take 5 days for travel, a plan my mother readily agreed to, offering to join me. The next day's wedding photo session was guided entirely by my mother's selections, yet gazing at myself in the mirror, adorned in a phoenix coronet and ceremonial robes, I felt a fleeting disorientation. I had once fantasized countless times that Lucien would hold my hand and grow old with me, but ultimately, we could not endure 7 years, parting ways, and I was now to marry another. I took out my phone, snapped a selfie, and updated my profile picture, which had previously been a subtle couple's image with Lucien, chosen with care to avoid troubling him. With a new profile picture set, I set the phone aside and resumed posing for photos, only to discover afterward that Lucien had left 399 missed calls on my phone. In less than half an hour, he had called 399 times, exceeding all his proactive calls to me over 7 years, but since we had parted, I felt there was nothing left to discuss. He chose and I opted for an arranged marriage, and we should treat each other as mere passers-by in life. As I prepared to block his number, my cousin called, saying, "Yo-yo, didn't you tell Lucien you're getting married? He's at my doorstep now, causing a scene, wanting to find you." I was slightly startled, replying, "I mentioned it to him, but he didn't believe me, so I didn't bring it up again," and my cousin informed me that Lucien had gone frantic upon seeing my new profile picture. How could a mere photo change drive him to such madness? "Yo-yo, you should tell him yourself to make him give up, or if he keeps this up, my neighbors will complain," she advised. After hanging up with my cousin, I scrolled through the hundreds of apology and reconciliation texts from Lucien, yet they stirred no ripple in my heart. Sure enough, he called again, and upon answering, his anxious voice poured through, "Yo-yo, where are you? Who are you taking wedding photos with?" "Where I am isn't important," I replied, and he pressed, "Are you taking wedding photos just to spite me? You can't marry someone else, hear me? In this lifetime, you can only marry me." I couldn't fathom where his confidence came from, presuming I'd never marry another, perhaps due to my past devotion to him. "Lucien, we're both adults, whom I marry is my freedom. Please refrain from disturbing my family henceforth," I stated. Still unwilling, Lucien apologized again, promising to send and away that night and begging me to return, but I declined. "No need, I'm not an object you can discard when inconvenient and reclaim when you please. We're finished," I said, expecting tears or heartache, yet contrarily, my heart was calm, devoid of even a single tear. After hanging up the phone, I deleted all of Lucien's contact information, putting an imperfect end to our 7-year relationship. 2 days later, my mother and I visited Mount Wutai to pray, and without Lucien's interruptions, my world grew much quieter. Yo-yo, come with me to pray for a good marriage, my mother said, beaming with satisfaction at my willingness to relax. Mom, haven't you already arranged my marriage? No need to pray for it, right? I asked, and she gently took my hand, explaining that prayers for marriage and children at Mount Wutai were highly effective, suggesting that after my past hardships, I might as well pray for blessings and a brighter future while here. Upon returning home, my parents attended to my every need, as if compensating for the 7 years of love I missed while away. I'll follow your lead, I said, unable to refuse my mother's profound love, and soon we lit 3 incense sticks and approached the burner. But within a few steps, a familiar voice reached my ears. Brother Lucien, quickly say you'll care for me forever, never leaving or forsaking me. Catching a glimpse of and coaxing a promise from Lucien, I swiftly diverted my mother. Mom, I'm terribly thirsty, please buy me a bottle of water, and after she left, I retreated to an inconspicuous corner, waiting for them to depart. Meanwhile, Lucien bowed thrice before the burner, declaring, I, Lucien, will care for and my entire life, never leaving or forsaking her, and satisfied with his pledge, and linked arms with him and left. I never imagined Lucien could be so deplorable. Just 2 days prior, he had tenderly apologized and sought reconciliation with me, yet today he vowed a lifetime to, and I was immensely relieved that leaving him was the right decision. When my mother returned, I proceeded as if nothing had happened, continuing my prayers, and after the brief trip, I returned to prepare for the wedding. The Shen family, a prominent lineage in Haicheng, placed great importance on this wedding banquet, announcing it 3 days in advance, swiftly making us the city's focal point and trending on social media. The day before the wedding, Lucien called from a new number, pleading, Yo-yo, why marry someone else? Is this revenge? I've apologized, isn't that enough? Stop this, please, but it was all too late. I replied calmly, Lucien, why must I forgive you just because you turn back and apologize? Why can't I marry another? Was I your girlfriend? Did you ever acknowledge it, leaving him momentarily speechless? Throughout, I refrained from mentioning and, as our relationship faltered first before a third party emerged, and I concluded by warning him against further harassment, threatening police action, ignoring whatever he might have added, as it no longer mattered. On the wedding day, per the schedule, my cousin accompanied me early for bridal makeup, saying, our Yo-yo, such a fine girl, can finally embrace happiness. That scumbag Lucien getting hit by a car is what he deserves, she added, and I paused slightly, recalling Lucien's past remark that if he wronged me, he'd be struck by a car upon leaving. Pa, my jinxed mouth, today's your joyous day, I shouldn't speak of ill omens, she corrected herself, and I smiled faintly, now free of anything I couldn't release. Let's not mention him, I agreed, and mid-conversation, the scent of lilies wafted through the air, prompting me to look up sharply as a refined man in a black suit approached, holding a large bouquet of white lilies. Look, James is here, you two chat, I'll step out, my cousin said with a smile, and spotting the groom's boutonniere on his suit, I felt momentarily flustered. First meeting I heard from Auntie you like lilies, James said, clearly having done his research, a preference I'd held always, unknown to Lucien despite our 7 years together. Thank you, I said, acknowledging my parents' keen judgment, as James exuded reliability at first glance, and my mother approached smilingly, noting, it's getting late, time to don the veil and depart. James extended his hand gallantly, and after a brief hesitation, I offered mine, reasoning that as the future Mrs. Shen, it was inevitable, and there was no need for reservations. Just as we crossed the makeup room threshold, the best man rushed over, whispering something to James that slightly darkened his expression. Yo-yo, wait a moment, I'll be right back, he said, gently squeezing my hand before leaving unhurriedly, returning as promised 10 minutes later. As the wedding march played, we entered the venue under the gaze of family and friends, and seeing my tearful parents, I realized I was truly about to marry, the officiant asking, Ms. Yo-yo, do you take Mr. James as your husband? I looked up, meeting James's gentle eyes and my parents' hopeful stares, answering, "I do," to James's evident joy and my parents' relieved sighs. As James retrieved the ring to place it on my finger, a hoarse shout erupted from the doorway, "No! Yo-Yo, you can't marry him." It was Lucien, hobbling toward the hall on 2 crutches. My mother's face paled. "How is he here?" "Security, remove him," while my cousin gaped, "Is he risking his life? Hit by a car last night with a fractured calf, and he's out today?" Security mobilized, but seeing his legs swathed in bandages and each step labored, they hesitated to intervene, allowing Lucien to quicken his pace, saying, "Yo-Yo, I was truly wrong. I've ended things with and, look, I brought your favorite roses." James grew tense, gently holding my hand. "Yo-Yo, I respect your choice," and I gripped his hand firmly, smiling. "My Mr. James, sorry you had to witness this. Did you forget?" "I just said I do," I reassured, and his smile widened as he drew me into his embrace, asking, "Need my help now?" To which I replied, "No, I'll handle it. Wait for me." My cousin adjusted my train, and I approached Lucien, hardly believing that someone once so fastidious now appeared in a suit jacket over hospital pants, unshaven. "Yo-Yo, I was wrong. Please give me another chance," Lucien pleaded, lunging toward me, only to be restrained by my cousin. Unresigned, Lucien produced a ring and proposed publicly, "Yo-Yo, marry me. I'll make it up to you, I promise." The venue fell silent, all awaiting my response, and I couldn't disappoint them. "Lucien, we were never officially together, nor met each other's parents. You just admitted ending things with Anne, and now propose to me. Do you think that's appropriate?" I rebuked, leaving him speechless, his glance at James on stage revealing his sense of inferiority. "It's not like that, Yo-Yo. Listen, I'll confess now, and we can start as boyfriend and girlfriend, okay?" he stammered. Lucien's words were disjointed, but I firmly refused. "No need. I am now James's wife and cannot accept anyone's confession." Today was my joyous occasion, and I wished for no disruptions from the past, yet Lucien, unwilling to accept reality, frantically discarded his crutches. "Impossible. You loved me for 7 years, how could you marry so suddenly? You must be forced by your family, right?" he insisted, and yes, I had loved him for 7 years, now a mere jest in hindsight. "I am marrying James willingly, and as for us, it's over. You're just unwilling to face that fact," I stated, and upon hearing this, Lucien collapsed dejectedly, clutching his head and wailing, indistinguishable whether from heartache or physical pain. Suddenly, he crawled toward me with effort, clinging to my legs. "Yo-Yo, please don't marry him. I can't live without you." Seeing this, my cousin shoved Lucien away, declaring, "If you foresaw today, why act as you did? It's you who's unworthy of our Yo-Yo." I regarded Lucien coldly, enunciating each word. "Lucien, it's not that you can't live without me. You're just unaccustomed to my departure after loving you so long, feeling you've lost out. You love Anne, hence your willingness to pledge a lifetime of care to her, while I, after 7 years, couldn't secure an official status. Now I've found someone to entrust my life to, so please respect yourself," I concluded, silencing Lucien instantly. Ignoring him, I instructed my cousin to call 120 to have him removed, then strode toward James, later unable to recall whatever Lucien shouted, as a single glance from James cleared the venue. The wedding proceeded smoothly, unaffected by this interlude, and afterward, James and I embarked on a honeymoon, essentially to nurture our bond. Yet James was respectful, limiting intimacy to hand-holding, prompting me to ask, "James, do you mind my past?" Considering this man would share my life, certain issues needed resolution, and James, mid-bread cutting, paused briefly. "No, I just don't want you to think I'm taking advantage, but I'm confident I can help you move beyond your previous relationship's shadow," he replied. I was touched. He had sidelined all work to be with me, while gossip portrayed me as the Shin family's bane, costing them numerous partnerships. "Yo-Yo, may I ask you something?" James ventured cautiously, and I nodded. Go ahead." To his query, "Did you agree to marry me partly out of spite?" Hearing this, I grasped James's concern. I admitted a trace of spite initially, but post-marriage, I marveled at my parents' discernment, for James was truly exceptional. Mr. James' spite comprised only 10%, I believe fate accounted for 90% otherwise. I'd have grabbed anyone off the street, I began. Before I finished, James stepped forward and embraced me, insisting, "No, it can only be me," leaving me slightly bewildered. James then explained slowly that we had met 7 years ago when he accompanied his father to visit my family, witnessing my argument with my parents over Lucien, forcing him to conceal his instant affection for me, a secret kept for 7 years. I felt awkward hearing this, but James softly consoled, "It's my fault if I'd been bolder then and pursued you, perhaps you'd have suffered less," and in his warm embrace, I realized someone truly cared about my past pain. "Since you don't mind my past, let's look forward. I promise to be a worthy Mrs. Shen," I assured, and post-honeymoon, I persuaded James to resume his work. 3 months later, my cousin invited me shopping, and while waiting in an alley, someone suddenly covered my mouth, causing my consciousness to fade before I was dragged into a car. When I awoke, I found myself confined in a dim, damp room, where Anne, her belly slightly swollen, approached me with a dagger. Pale with fear, I pleaded, "And, calm down, let's talk. My husband has money, I'll transfer you any amount now," yet despite my retreat, she advanced relentlessly. "Money? What use is money? Can it make Lucien marry me?" she retorted, and sensing something amiss, I probed, "Are you pregnant with Lucien's child?" And erupted into wild laughter. "Ha ha ha, yes, on the first night I moved into your place, I spiked Lucien's milk with a potent drug, and it worked on the first try. He promised to take responsibility, to care for me forever, but reneged upon seeing you marry, so it's your fault for ruining my happiness," she accused, and recalling Lucien's car accident, it all became coherent. Facing Anne's menacing visage, reasoning with her was futile, so I offered, "And, release me, and I'll ensure Lucien marries you." And dismissed this, revealing Lucien had avoided her for 2 months, then retrieved my phone from my bag, demanding I call him. Grabbing the phone, I first called James, then located Lucien's number in my blacklist, surprised when he answered instantly, "Yo-yo, where are you?" And snatched the phone, commanding, "Lucien, to save Yo-yo, bring your household registry and marry me. I'm at the abandoned factory in the eastern suburbs waiting." Half an hour later, Lucien arrived limping, and pressed the knife to my throat, threatening, "Choose one carefully, my knife doesn't discriminate," leaving me praying for James's swift arrival, indifferent to Lucien's decision. Lucien dropped to his knees, begging Anne to spare me, enraging her, "Lucien, you'd kneel for her. Do you love me or her?" Without hesitation, Lucien declared, "I've always loved Yo-yo, I just couldn't see it. My care for you is purely sibling-like." These words incensed Anne, who wildly swung the dagger, then thrust it toward my face. "No." Lucien, with unknown strength, tackled Anne, the dagger piercing his abdomen, and as she frantically withdrew it, crying, Brother Lucien, his blood flowed unabated. At that moment, James burst in with a group, apologizing, "Yo-yo, I'm sorry I'm late." A month later, and was convicted of kidnapping and intentional injury, and James and I visited Lucien in the hospital, where his prior leg injury, worsened by non-compliance during my wedding and avoidance of treatment while evading Anne, plus this ordeal, likely left him permanently disabled. "Yo-yo, can you forgive me now?" Lucien pleaded, but I replied calmly, "Thank you for saving me, that's all. You also harmed Anne and your child, I think you need her forgiveness more." Having endured so much, I had gained clarity. Discussing forgiveness now held no meaning. Leaving the hospital, I held James's hand firmly, uncertain of our future but steadfast in my belief that all would turn out well.